Hello and welcome to this very first lesson on learning the tarot. If you're ready, then let's begin. So we're starting out with the pages. Maybe an unusual choice, but bear with me because these are the children of the tarot. And when we're beginners, what are we? We're children, we're novices, we're just learning how to use our tools. And that's exactly what the pages are doing. Okay, let's get into it. The first thing that we need to understand about the tarot as a system are the elemental attributions. And we've got earth associated with the suit of pentacles, air associated with the suit of swords, cups associated with the suit of water, and fire with the suit of wands. During this course, we're going to get much more in depth about the elements. And so today I'm actually going to go over this relatively superficially, but usually you're going to be able to get something out of the examples. I'd like to start out with kind of intuitive sense of how the elements express themselves in the human personality. And then in later courses, we'll get down more into the whole esoteric universe of information around each element. So, before we start, just a little bit of theory, which is the link between the elements. You've no doubt seen the pentagram, and for some of you, this is going to be redundant, so you might want to skip ahead. But for everyone else, bear with me. The pentagram is often conveyed to us in popular culture as some kind of demonic symbol. It's really not. It speaks about the unity of everything and how ether, spirit, God, the source, and the divine is at the pinnacle and reigning over the whole of the elemental universe, all of manifested and unmanifested reality. And we've got the idea that at the top, we've got unmanifested reality. We've got the ideal, the source, God, unity. And then this line goes down, we can see to fire. And fire is that idea of the spark. So in Vedic astrology and in the Vedas, there's an idea that when you're born, there's a spark that is transmitted that comes out of the original light and source. And it's embedded in the material reality that is your body. So, fire is supposedly the most subtle element and the closest to source. The next level of subtlety, and so as we're going down, things are getting denser. The next one is air. And air is the realm of information, of ideas. And then air travels along the line to water. And water is our emotional body and how we feel the information, how we feel our life. And then that travels down to earth, which is all of material reality. And we see now the interconnection between earth and ether and spirit, because spirit is nothing if it has no material plane to manifest on, and earth is nothing without its spiritual component. And so there's nothing inferior or superior. They are all interconnected, they are all needed, and there isn't one that is better than the other. So that's something to just bear in mind. And when we see the pentacle suit, we're going to see all five of those elements represented. So even though we're talking about earth, we're always talking about heaven as well. From the earliest dawn of time, there has been associations between human characteristics and the elements, as we can see in this Latin diagram where we've got fire, air, earth, and water, and these being embodied as temperance. And really, that is the key to understanding the court card, that an element has its translation into the human personality. And while we're a mix of many different elements, we might have a dominant element that's expressing itself either throughout our whole life or at a particular moment, or there might be an element that we need to get ourselves out of a situation. So we're going to take a look at the pages because they are the first manifestations, the childlike part of each of us. And they are just learning to wield their elemental power. So the subject today is court cards, and there are four. There are pages, knights, queens, and kings. Now, this can get a little bit confusing because you're going to have different decks where sometimes instead of pages, you've got princesses. In the Thoth deck, notably, the king is swapped with the knight. But generally, those are the classic four court cards. And today we're going to focus on the pages. So you're going to see this slide again. So I'm not necessarily going to read through it all. The important thing for us to focus on today is the page being the youngest. And so as we go up from the page is the youngest and the least experienced. The knight has more like an adolescent energy, and they are trying to go out and achieve in life, and they've got deployed energy but lack a bit of experience. The queen is a female energy, more at home with power and delegating tasks, attracting resources, using them with mastery, and the king being he who can lead and order. But today we're focusing on the page. That can signify a child or a teenager, so the children of somebody in a reading, but it can also refer to phases of exploration, inspiration in new fields, the birth of an idea, the presence of a clear instinct or desire, and periods where the person is a novice and lacks experience and possibly autonomy. So you maybe have a new idea, but you're not really sure how you're going to realize it. And you might be 65, but you're still in your page energy. So before we get into any kind of systemic look of how we interpret page cards, we can also just look at the card and just read the card. And there's a video on YouTube, I believe it's had over 1 million views, and I used it myself. And the tarot teacher there said, just read the card. And that is great advice. Just read the card. And so here are some questions you might be asking when you're looking at a card. Or maybe you don't know anything, but just look at it. So first of all, where is the character looking? When we're reading body language, we're looking at an image, we're analyzing an image. It's just like reading body language. You're looking at somebody and you look at them and go, oh, that guy looks lost. Okay, it's the same thing when you are looking at a tarot card. Where are they looking? Are they looking to the horizon? So are they projecting into the future? Are they looking down? Are they maybe feeling an emotion? Are they in a phase of introspection? Are they charging into war? What are they doing? That really does tell you what you need to know about the card. And there are also codes in the tarot. So when the character is standing, we've got this idea that they are ready for action. They are in movement. The Knights cards obviously are mounted, so they've got the means to go fast and to get to where they want to go more quickly. So are they moving towards their objective actively? Are they sitting? Are they reflecting? Sometimes sitting can also be a sign that you're in an established power. You're seated in your power, like a king or a pope or a queen. And there you're able to reflect and delegate and mobilize the resources of others. Obviously, there's also color symbolism. So check out some of my videos about the colors, because all of this is the vocabulary and the grammar of symbolic thinking. The color will be associated with the characteristics of the corresponding element. So some of that's very obvious. If we're looking at a wands card, which is associated with fire, you're usually going to see red and yellow and these warm tones. So where is the character? The landscape is also going to give information about the influences on them and their capacity to act and progress. So are they in the dark? Is it a bright sunny day? Is the path clear? Are there obstacles? Are there things in their path? All of these are clues as to how we can understand it. And although I work with the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition, I am just going to talk briefly about the Tarot de Marseille. And in the Tarot de Marseille, they set their cards out in a very different way from the Celtic cross used by most Rider-Waite-Smith users. They actually just put the cards in a line, which is called a tirage de ligne, or in what they call a grand tableau, where the cards, there may be 9 or 12 cards that are just sort of posted there, and then they look at the picture that that makes. So you create one big picture, a bit like a jigsaw, with the different cards. And the sight lines of the character are an essential part of the reading. I'm just going to show you what I mean. So here we can see 4 cards. There would normally be more, but just for convenience, just to show you how that might work. So we've got the Queen of Coins there. Now, where's her attention? She's looking at her coin. She's absorbed in it. She's absorbed in her resources or what she wants to have as resources, and she's focused. But next to her, we've got the Page of Swords, and he's looking at her or her coin. So he's taking an interest in her that she's either unaware of or uninterested in. Next to him is the King of Cups, and he's having a little bit of a dialogue with the Page of Cups. So they've both got a cup, they've got something in common, and they're looking at one another. So there's a line of communication there. So it just like in our relations, these are parallels speaking about how a situation might play out. So, for example, well, you're really focused on this, but behind you there's somebody else taking interest, so watch out. Or you're in the position of the Page of Swords and you're really interested in something, but the person that you want to notice you doesn't see you. These are all different kinds of interpretations that could come out of that. So that's another way of looking at the cards that I just wanted to bring up. But again, that could be a subject for a whole video. So I'm going to move on now to the pages in particular. Um, okay, that slide's not looking how I thought it looked. All right, something weird's gone on there. These, I just wanted to put these out there because they're some of my favorite cards. And we've got here the Page of Wands, the right, I'm going right to left, the Page of Cups, the Page of Swords, and the Page of Pentacles. And just to show you how differently we can represent the pages, I just wanted to show a bit of lovely artwork before I go on to the most conventional forms of the pages. All right, so here we are. We have arrived at the first of the pages, and we're going to talk about the cups first. The cups being the emotions, and probably what people are most interested in when they come for a tarot reading. And the Page of Cups will look something like this. So I've given you 3 different examples. We've got always the presence of water. It's a water suit, and water represents the emotional body. And so we can see the Page of Cups in the first 2 examples on the land, but very, very close to the sea. So at the shoreline. And we've got this fish either in the cup or leaping into or out of the cup, and the page is in some way interacting with it. Although I would say that the third one doesn't seem to be looking at the fish. The fish seems to be trying to draw her attention to something and say, "Hey, I'm here. Listen to me." And there's an atmosphere of childlike curiosity. And so, yeah, we've got these colors of blue and green and gold for the cup. Now, I said that I was going to, if you've watched the introductory video, I said that I was going to talk about the tarot in 2 different ways. One, the divinatory meaning, so how we can read the future and look ahead. And the other one, more about how we can develop some self-understanding. And this was something that I came across on Instagram, the idea of the childhood wound and the tarot card. So I'm going to start with this Page of Cups. Now, the elemental attribution, all the page cups are earth cards in a sense. And we've got this combination of earth and water. So we're really in manifested reality. We're not up in the astral planes, and we're having an emotional reaction to our manifested reality. Now, just like the water signs in astrology, and so if any of you know astrology, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The water element is associated with emotional sensitivity. So if you were a Page of Cups child, some of the wounds that you might be carrying are the fact that you are maybe labeled as too sensitive. Maybe you experienced and still experience intense and overwhelming emotions. So we talk about highly sensitive people. This is very Page of Cups. Maybe you were mocked or punished for being absent minded or dreamy, or tearing up easily at films, at animal cruelty, really identifying with the underdog. Um, maybe wanting to become a vegetarian when you were 5 years old, when you really understood that actually, my goodness, an animal died for my meal, that kind of thing. That's very Page of Cups. Um, you might also be somebody that's very creative, but your creativity wasn't of a kind that was just easily assimilated and accepted by other people. It might have been considered a little bit strange, or certainly understood in some ways, which can lead to feelings of isolation and self-protectiveness, possibly shyness. The Page of Cups, of course, might also grow up to be the mystic, might have mystical experiences as a child, see things that other people don't see, just have a bigger bandwidth in some way, on an emotional scale. And so have intuitive capacities that are ignored or discouraged by the family and those around them. So seeing and understanding things and trying to communicate them, and just being ignored or dismissed. And that can be something that you carry on into life and can make things difficult for you. So all wounds have potential gifts in them. So that is, the Page of Cups can grow up to be the psychotherapist that really helps you to understand your own emotions, because the Page of Cups has been through that, been through the experience of trying to understand why they feel different from other people. So to be able to express your emotions clearly, which you might do as well through a creative act, like making music or writing poetry, doing work that requires empathy and compassion. So again, it could be working with animals or other beings that don't have a voice of their own, very young children or the very elderly or handicapped people who are just not paid attention to and maybe misunderstood. And so I mentioned before, great potential creative gifts. So we could read the card in a psychological way during a reading, and I would say that I tend to read from a more psychological perspective, and I call myself a tarologist or a tarologue in French. But we can also read in a more divinatory way, and when we get the Page of Cups, it could be a signal. Now, all the pages have this idea of bringing news. They're the messengers of the tarot. And so here it could be some kind of intuition, a feeling that the cards are asking you to listen to. So it would depend on what's around it. It could be a warning, or it could be a sense of, yeah, actually, maybe I should accept that date. I mean, I don't, not my normal type, but I don't know. I just feel maybe I should give that a chance. That kind of little message that you might get, that is maybe non-verbal, but you should pay attention to. And it could be literally a message, somebody sending you a message saying that they like you, that it could be an invitation, it could be an apology, it could be good news. It could literally be a meeting. Here it is. Here's the person. It could be an idea or an inspiration that you've had. And now we're going to see later that, in fact, both the swords and the wands have a connection to having ideas and impulses too. But I would say this is more the idea of an inspiration, of a feeling that leads to a poem or a song. Now, again, we've seen that with the wounds, we have opportunities, but we also have potential negatives to everything. Everything has a light and darker side. So in a reading, if it was badly aspected or had some difficult cards around it, we could be looking at a naive or immature or over idealistic understanding of a situation that could lead you into error. It could be the idea of the pipe dream. It could be something that you maybe dream about, but never makes it into action. It has a similar vibe to it to the Ace of Cups. Now, so we're at a level one here, and you'll see in later lessons how the number one relates to initiations, beginnings, first steps. So we've got that, and then also the Fool, the kind of the inexperienced, instinct guided young person that adventures forward into life. Okay, and you can see that I haven't necessarily done these in any particular order, but we're going to now take a look at the Page of Coins, which is the Earth of Earth. And if we look at the cards here as examples, we tend to look at that combination of orange and green, and usually being in quite a fertile landscape. This is Earth of Earth, so we can see green trees and fields and distant hills. It's quite a pleasant environment that they're in because they're in their home element here. And we see them holding a coin and they're looking at their objective or their resource and they are setting off. So let's see where they're going. Okay. We're going to start with the potential wounds, as I did with the Page of Cups. The Page of Coins children are slow, steady, quiet people, and they can be very overlooked. They can be the kid at the back of the class or that doesn't speak. People don't really know who they are, and they can be considered a bit of a non-entity by other people who don't understand them and who've never tried to get anything out of them. They could also be categorized as boring or slow. So if they're put on the spot by an adult, by a teacher, asked a question, they might need time to think about it. They might become red. They might go into their body and feel blocked, feel unable to say anything. And then it's considered that they didn't know the answer, that they didn't understand. And actually, it might just be that as soon as the teacher's attention moves elsewhere, they knew the answer. They just couldn't say it. They just felt really uncomfortable expressing themselves in front of all of the class. And this can be really unfortunate. They can be really underestimated, but you'll see that can be their superpower later on. They tend to have, because we've got this Earth of Earth, it's a fixed energy. When they like something, they really like it. And when they love someone, they really love them. They make great partners and they make great friends. And they'll always be there for them. And what can be unfortunate is that they function like that. But if they have fire friends or air friends, they might move on to more interesting people, and that could be a real heartbreak for the Page of Coins child who really has fantastic capacity to be loyal, and you can trust them. If they say they're going to do something, or they're going to keep a secret, they'll do that. And it can be very wounding for them to see that others don't do the same thing, and they can feel very rejected. Um, and that can create quite a lot of anxiety because they know they can trust themselves, but they can't necessarily trust the people around them, even the adults who might seem flighty or unpredictable, because they're very methodological. And to be surrounded by people who are not can be destabilizing. And so they can feel quite a lot of anxiety. They might not enjoy situations where there's change. The kind of kid that when they're told they're going on a holiday, instead of going, yeah, we're going on a holiday, they're like, oh, well, when are we going? And how are we going to get there? And what about our rabbits? Where are they going to be? So they're immediately going to come up with their anxieties, and they're going to need quite a lot of reassurance. It's very important for parents of Page of Coins kids to fulfill that role. Because of their anxiety, they might have some tendencies to self-soothe, and they'll do that in quite a material way, in the sense that it might be through, when they're older, it might be through things like shopping. And when they're children, when they're very young children, it might be sucking their thumb, or it could be things like eating. And they can have a tendency to gain weight if they don't manage that, because they're accumulating things to build their defenses. So that could be through eating, or it could be through collecting things. They like to collect things, have lots of different toys of the same kind. Now, as I said, they have a superpower. They have an aptitude for learning because they're very methodological, and they know how to work with systems. And they have a capacity to focus because they don't get distracted in the same way that the much faster thinking air sign does. They're able to delay gratification usually, and to realize goals, and show loyalty. They can develop great competence and effectiveness, and they're often the best members of their teams. And they can honor their word and follow through on promises, and they can become really valued members of society when their gifts are appreciated. So now let's take a look at how the Page of Coins might show up in a reading, and the way that we can interpret that as a future. So this could be manifestation. This could be a financial or professional opportunity. It could be developing skills. It could be investing in a new hobby of resources, time, and energy. It could be fixing an objective or goal in quite a methodological way, beginning a course of study. So it's really the card of the student as well. You often see that when people begin to study something. So, in fact, if you're here now, you are having a bit of Page of Coins moment. It could be learning from past mistakes, reevaluating objectives if that's reversed, or if it's in a negative position. So if it's got lots of difficult cards around it associated with more difficult cards, it might involve procrastination, or being blocked, or stagnating. So associated cards might be the Ace of Coins, the Empress, that goddess of the earth, and the Fool again. Let's now talk about the Page of Swords, which is the Earth of Air. And if we take a look at these cards, we can see that they've got their feet on the ground, yes, but they've got their sword raised, and we can see it's a windy day. We can see that there's movement. There's a great sense of movement in the Page of Swords cards. And these are people that talk quickly, that have a lot going on. And I have to say, I do identify with the Page of Swords. So let's talk about how the Page of Swords is as a child, and the potential wounds that this Page of Swords inner child might have for a querent or for you listening. Um, a Page of Swords is often a precocious child in some way, in the sense that maybe they've been made to manage big adult concepts before they were ready to do that. So they could have quite a difficult early life. They were maybe put in a position of being the protector of a vulnerable parent, or having to try and be the confidant of a parent who told them things that were really above their intellectual level. So being just brought into the complexity of the adult world a bit too early. And that does lead to strong intellectual development, but it can put them out of step with others. So this sense of difference, of not fitting in, of thinking about big ideas that you can't really share with others and that make you look a bit odd or a bit pretentious or a bit like the teacher's pet. Um, so yes, it can actually be a little bit of the teacher's pet card, in the sense that you might get rejected by your peers because you're too smart, you get good grades, you're very, very motivated by learning and being the best and knowing all the answers, and then other people thinking you're a know-it-all and not wanting to be around you, not finding your interests interesting at all. Um, Swords are the most difficult suit in the tarot, and a sword is something that hurts. And we all know that sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Really only applies to the physical body, but you can be cut to pieces inside by cruel words. And the Page of Swords might be the kind of child that received aggressive verbal attacks, and who might actually use a sharp tongue to defend themselves because that's what they learned. So they could be very self-critical and might be critical of others. Because they're in an air sign, and air sign are information, this is a child as well that could escape into stories in particular. So just completely dissociating from the body and going off into the realm of ideas, fantasy, imagining reality in a different way, being obsessed by books and films and just storytelling of all kinds. So, as a gift to develop, obviously, it could be that they could become genuinely excellent students later, really excelling in academia, doing very, very well at university, literature and science. They can also have a great intellectual curiosity. So they can be the people that really ask the pertinent questions, really drive into the heart of the matter. Great judges, people who were really prepared to put in the intellectual work to learn the law, to read philosophy, to do some intellectual heavy lifting. So they can spot mistakes, solve problems, analyze complex situations. And they can also be people that might have the courage to express and defend their own values. So, say, be unprepared to lie for a comfortable life, but say, no, this is an objective truth, and I refuse to say anything other than the objective truth, even if that might hurt your feelings. So that's something that they could develop as they go as they go along. It's obviously important for them also to develop a consideration for others' feelings, while also respecting the value of the truth. So let's look at how that might turn up in a reading. It can be a new idea, something that comes in a flash. So we saw how the pentacles, coins, that's the earth, so that's a slow development. But the sword, that can be like a sudden gust of wind. It's boom, oh, I know what to do. It can be curiosity and exploration. So it can be messages, communication, launching a book project, doing a podcast, making a YouTube video, putting something out there, advancing with your little sword of ideas and truth. It can be a desire to learn. It can be enthusiasm for new ideology, way of thinking, philosophy, a phase of research or questioning of established truth. Um, it could maybe be like cutting to the heart of the matter, or in the shadow side, a lack of candor, directness, or even honesty. It can be a bit of a gap between the public and the private self. It could be talking replacing action. It could be promises not kept. And the associated cards would be the Ace of Swords, naturally, and the Magician. Well, we've come to our fourth and final of the pages, which is the Page of Wands. And it's definitely a question of last but not least, because this is Earth of Fire. And the Page of Wands knows how to make himself or herself noticed. Right, we can see just generally when we're looking at the card that in the traditional Rider Waite Smith, we see the Page of Wands like looking at the wand. So it's almost like the child getting to know their own power and going, oh, what can I do with this? And they tend to be dressed in red or yellow, and there's a little bit of a desert environment because we can see that the power of the fire has transformed the earth. So, who is the Page of Wands? Well, that is a kid that we might know as the troublemaker at school. So, the Page of Wands might be seen as the impulsive, rowdy, undisciplined, difficult kid in the class. They might have difficulty channeling their energy, so they're maybe unable to sit still and they might get punished at school. My own son really couldn't sit still for years, and it was very difficult for him to just sit there in a row in class because his body was just going, I want to move, I want to move, I want to move. And so these kids really need to have some kind of outlet in sport. They need to run, they need to shout, they need to just evacuate all this energy that they're carrying. And so that can be, unfortunately, in a society that just wants everyone to sit down and shut up and listen to the experts, it can be that these kids just feel they don't know what to do with themselves. They're just exploding. And they can be given hyperactivity diagnosis. When actually, in a time when you just sort of opened your doors and went, away you go, and the kids ran off and climbed trees all day, that child would thrive. So it's really horses for courses. They can be the troublemaker. They can disturb the others in class. They can be noisy, and they can then play the clown or like really embody the role of the troublemaker because that's the role that they're given. And the trauma associated with that is being told by be constantly being told off, or sometimes being told you will fail at life. If you don't change your energy pattern, you won't succeed. And being told that they have to be more like the Page of Coins, which ironically the Page of Coins is always overlooked and ignored until he's being compared favorably with the Page of Wands. But this fire energy is a gift, and the things that they can develop later in life is to use their passionate nature to inspire others, to motivate them, to lead others. You can't stand on a stage and open your mouth and speak in front of others if you don't have any fire energy. And so these are the people that are just meant for that. They can receive and act on inspiration. These are the kind of people, when they've got an idea, they do it. They're not going to sit around planning out every step. They are just going to take their courage in both hands and go. Negative sides of that could be taking risks that sometimes are really genuinely unreasonable, but they have curiosity and energy, and they can cultivate their popularity not just by acting the fool, but by developing that into the entertainer. And they have a certain ageless quality as well, because if you maintain your energy later on in life, even if you look older, people still respond to that drive and force of youth that doesn't go out in them. So, what could it mean if you receive this card in a reading? Well, like all of the pages, it can be news, usually good news, but that does depend on the cards around it. Often about a project. So, where we deploy our energy, our fire energy in daily life, is really often in our studies or work life, and so it's really often connected to that, but not always. It's very creative, the fire energy too. So it can be the inspiration, it can be your mojo coming back, it can be you going, yes, I'm going to do this. And really with that sort of solar plexus power of having both the idea and the will to realize it. Your ability to find inspiration, also setting off on a journey towards the unknown. We've got this desert landscape. We don't know what we're going to find on the at the end of the horizon there. It can be a spiritual call as well, a return to the true inspiration of childhood, your vocation. Um, on a negative side, so the more shadow element of this archetype, it could be being confused about our true instinct. Is this a real desire, or is this something that's been implanted in me? Is this intuition, or is this something else? It can also be kind of irregular effort. So projects started and then abandoned halfway through. It can be also like falling at the first obstacle and going, oh, running forward and then falling. So we've got that hare and tortoise at the hare and the tortoise archetype. So often the fire archetype, the page of wands, is, as I said before, compared to the page of coins. Why can't you be more studious and quieter like them? And then the page of coins is told, why can't you be more dynamic and more interesting like the page of wands? And the kind of intellectual page of swords might be told that they should be better socially, they should have more friends, that they should be more heart-centered. And the page of cups is going to be told that they need to be smarter, they need to be more objective, they need to be more rational, and stop being so wet. So um, all of the pages are going to find their own their way of balancing themselves with that opposite energy like that. Okay, so yeah, just the last point there. The associated cards are the Ace of Wands and the Magician. All right, I think that is it's probably quite long. So you can see this is going to take a while because we've just done 4 cards. Um, but if you stick with me, you're going to hopefully find your way through the whole of the 78 cards. Okay, so um, thank you for sticking with me throughout that. Um, Tarot's not for everyone, but if you like that, I really like for you to like and subscribe. There's a lot of work that went into this, and I'm not just talking about the time it took me to put together the slides, but actually years and years of reading and pulling the cards and thinking and writing, and it's almost unquantifiable the amount of time I've spent thinking about the tarot, and I know that there's always more to know. So anyway, if you appreciate this offering, please consider liking and subscribing and sharing, and I will see you soon for the nights.